Okay, today we're going to create a double exposure effect, which is an effect where we take one image and we place another image over the top of it, and the two layers of the image interact, and we keep some features of both layers. Make a bit more sense when we go through it. First place I'm going to start is on the Year 9 photography classroom, and on here we can notice under September 25th, during week 6 we'll be examining how to create a double exposure. So all the resources that you need are here. So I have the PowerPoint that I can open up by the side of me, and I have our question, our tasks that we can move through, and also a step-by-step guide as well. And I've also put up two very low quality images that I will be using today to try and produce this as a demonstration. You need to use your own portrait image, and then you can search for dramatic landscapes using Google search to find quite a large image, and that's what you'll use for your background piece. Okay, so just a small example of what it might look like there. On Pixlr.com, then what you want to do is you want to have both of your images open. So I have my portrait here and I have my dramatic landscape in the background. And the first thing that we want to intend to do, if I double check on the instructions here, is we are going to be removing the background around our portrait's face. Okay, so there's three different ways, at least 3 different ways that I can think of to do this. I'm going to show you those 3 ways, and we're going to talk through some of the limitations of them. Okay, so the very first way is the eraser tool. So the eraser tool over here. You can click up by brush to adjust the size if you want it to be a hard brush where it just erases everything. A softer brush where some of the edges aren't erased as much, and also the diameter or the size of it as well. So I can use this and I can kind of drag and I can paint around the outside of the person's face as I want to start removing parts of this background. However, this has some limitations with it. I'm going to pause just for a second so we can discuss some of the limitations. Okay, some of the limitations which we will have with this, if we haven't already covered them, are, as you may notice, it's not the easiest tool to use. Okay, unless I wanted to start zooming in very, very close to the person's face with a smaller brush, I'm not going to get the greatest erasing around here. So if I took my time a little bit more carefully, and I worked my way around the person's face, then it would produce a better result. However, that's not going to be the case with this. It's going to take quite long to do. It's quite difficult to do using a mouse as well. Not one of my preferred methods of doing it. It is entirely possible to do it, but not the best way. The second way that you can look at is using the Lasso Tool. So if you click on the Lasso Tool, go up to the top where it says Polygonal Lasso Tool, click on that. This will allow you to draw out a custom shape, and then by double clicking it, it will close and select that area. So what I can do is I can start to draw an area around this person's face, and then take it to the outside, close it down, and I can start to remove the background in segments. And when I double click, it will lock the box. By pressing backspace or delete, we'll delete it. However, this also has its own limitations. Again, I'm just going to pause while we talk through them. Okay, limitations with this, in case we haven't already discussed it or we're just going to move forward, is that it is a very tricky tool to use, particularly if you're using the trackpad on your laptop. Okay, if you have a mouse, it's a little bit easier. Reason being, if I start to draw a shape out around this person's face, and oh no, I accidentally double click, it will merge your endpoint and your start point in whatever way it is able to. So obviously this isn't the area that I want selected. If I try to delete this now, it will remove part of the portrait's face, which is not what I'm after. Okay. Another difficulty with it as well is it's quite time consuming to do a good job with it. The final, and by far my favorite tool to use with this, which is only applicable if you have used a solid color or white background, is the Magic Wand tool. So the Magic Wand tool is here. By simply clicking on the color that I want to select, it will select as much of that color as it can see. So I've made a small selection here, and the moving ants around the outside have indicated to me that we have been able to select most of our background. This is a much, much easier way of removing large chunks of the same color. If you are finding some difficulty with this as you're moving through, for example, it's selecting too much or too little, you can try adjusting the tolerance. Okay? By increasing the tolerance, it will just select more colors, and by reducing the tolerance down further, it will select less shades of the same colour. Okay, around about 20 is somewhere where you want to be. This will help us to get most of the colours in our image selected and removed. Okay, let's have a look there. Okay, so as we see, now it's starting to just remove too much there. I don't want to. Okay, so if I move forward to that, okay, that's good. Okay, I haven't completed this as of yet. There are still pieces which need removing. I would use an eraser to just go back in and tidy up some of these areas. Hair is going to be an area which is quite difficult to use, particularly if you are photographing a subject that has maybe quite frizzy hair. I'm just going to do a really quick job with my eraser here, trying to remove as much as possible without making it look unrealistic. Okay, so we can progress. So by this stage now, I have my portrait, I have the white background removed, and it's time for me to bring across my emotional, my dramatic landscape scenery. So by opening this, what I want to do is I want to hit the command Control A, which will select the area, Control C to copy, go back to my original image, and Control V. Okay, so it's nearly big enough to fill the whole page. If I wanted to be really particular and I wanted to start manipulating it and making it that size, I can go to Edit and Free Transform and just make it a little bit larger. Okay, we're nearly through with this. The last thing we need to do is we need to change how the two layers, so our two layers here, so our landscape layer and our portrait layer, interact with one another. By clicking on this small dial here, the toggle layer settings, we're presented with an opacity option and a mode. You can experiment with a variety of the different modes to see what results you have and what happens by playing with them. For today, we're going to look at using screen or overlay. They produce quite similar results. So I'm going to go with screen for the minute, and we can see that already I have been able to produce my double exposure effect to a basic degree. I can reduce the opacity on the landscape if I want to have more of the portrait present, or I can increase the opacity if I want to have less of the portrait present. The last thing I would say for this image to improve it, to maybe make it look as interesting as we could possibly do, to get to this result here that I was looking at, and to hit some of your higher success criteria, you can go back to use the eraser tool, click on the brush, and I want you to select one of the softer brushes. Okay, so let's go with the 100 soft brush, and this will allow you to just quite carefully start to remove, let's go down here, that's where I want to go. This will start to remove some of the edges around our portrait, okay? So we'll start to have this more dreamlike effect of the person's face disappearing into where the portrait is coming out, okay? So you're going to have to play around with this to see what gives you your best results. You are also welcome as well to move the landscape around if you choose. So for example, I think maybe it would be more fitting to have this person standing somewhere around about where the character's eye is, so I'm going to put it around about there. Okay. Good luck with your editing, good luck with your finished results. Can't wait to see them.